Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this here old video, what we're going to do today is look at a marsh in California, and a few other things. This story takes us to a distant land, Yolo County, California, and this is certainly a you only live once type story, unfortunately for some of the people today. Though I gotta say friends, the Marsh we are talking about, he did not want to stop at what he was stopped at. Big fan of clowns was our guy, and it turned out he was the biggest clown of all. He had certain ideas from when he was very young, none of them good. But are they ever? I don't exactly talk about, good ideas on this channel. So to learn more, let's give it a go. The city of Davis, California, it was named after a prominent farmer back in the day being like 1850 something. What emerged from there was Davisville, then Davis, now Davis City, if you can believe that. Rub your eyes, honey, it's real. And by all accounts, it is a great place to live. It's a little over an hour's drive northeast of San Francisco, is home to about 70,000 people, and is ranked highly in nightlife, in family residence, education, and ranked lowly in crime. Let's add to that in this video. The city is dominated by the University of California, Davis, being the area's top employer, and is a top, with a capital T, school, especially for medicine of the human and animal kind. About 40,000 students enroll each semester, having a major impact on the town, and making Davis a hot ticket for you culture vultures out there. So take all of that, and then throw it out the window, because that's not what we're yapping about today, let me tell you. Things are going to get chilly. 2013 is the year, if you can believe that, when a teenager, a young fella, he had, since a young age, in his rather short life, he'd had an urge, a need, right? And not the need most teenage lads have, mind you, a different sort of need. A little bit murdering-y. A lot bit murdering-y, actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. For years, at this point, he had been thinking about, pondering other synonyms for thinking about. He'd been solely consumed with his dream, which must have meant he started when he was a literal child. Yikes. And that's true, we'll get to it. Spring 2013 was when he said, screw it. I'm not holding myself back anymore. I'm gonna, give in to my urge. Like an alcoholic who's done rationalizing and just picks up the bottle. That was our boy. But his dream was, murder. Of the serial kind. Oliver Northup and Claudia Maupin married relatively late in life. They were both in their 60s, but were absolutely mad about each other and very happy to have finally found their love. They lived in a condo in South Davis. Oliver, Chip, he had been a Navy man in WW2 and was now an attorney, still cracking the metaphorical whip at age 87 and grateful to do so. And Chip and Claudia, they weren't happy to do their thing, stick to themselves, no sir. They were both heavily involved in their local clubs and their Unitarian church. Claudia was 76 years old. She was retired, but retired from earning income, not from being an active person who delighted in being surrounded by all these fresh-faced college students and was eager to hear their stories, ideas, and attend their events. They both had kids from previous marriages, bit late to have them together, and so their rather large, extended, blended family were close, and the living was good in Davis, CA. Until it wasn't. See that Unitarian church? Chip was actually one of the founding members of it. On the morning of the 14th of April, 2013, they were founding members, they were always helping run it. Well, people noticed, essentially, when they didn't show up on the morning of the 14th of April, 2013. And they would have always been there. Calls to their home and their mobile phones went to voicemail. Chip was to play with his folk band later that day, and was also nowhere to be seen. They had family, kids not too far away, who decided to pop over, have a gander, and knocking, to no answer. Then, a cheeky little pop around the back of the house led to the discovery of an open window with a slashed screen. The window was in the bedroom, and the room was dark. But not dark enough to hide the horror that was on the bed. The police were called. Chip and Claudia were both laying on the bed in their home. They had both been stabbed to death, over 50 times each, head to toe. They had also been mutilated, with a mobile phone being placed inside Claudia's stomach and a glass inside Chip's. It was extremely gruesome. They had been a while dying. The investigation that followed was not gonna lie to you, it was not off to a great start. As the police started cordoning off the place, started going through the stuff, looking for forensics and, well, everything, they started to notice around the house things they didn't expect and couldn't find things they did. For example, the house was not torn apart. Nothing was stolen, and the couple, they had valuables lying around. No missing wallet, no missing purse, and no one had been looking for that stuff either. No robbery. And to go along with that, no evidence. No fingerprints. And in the bloody scene, no footprints either. No traces on the soles, anyway. There were no forensics left behind whatsoever. And even in the subsequent days and weeks when the FBI was called in, there was no trace of the killer. Family members, neighbours, churchgoers, business associates, the whole kit and caboodle all interviewed and let go. And this case would go cold, as hard as that is to believe, as time would go by. The police had literally nothing to go on as to who could have done this. And it was a horrific, brutal double murder. Two elderly, lovely, kind people murdered in their own home for seemingly no reason whatsoever. As I said, the usual, family. Nothing there. Bit of... No. The will? Where there's a will, there's a way. Not today. It grabbed the city by the shoulders and shook the shit out of it. But still, the investigators were no closer to finding who was behind it and stopping them before they struck again. But, and this is a big booty, the police, they had no clue. But a certain circle of friends in Davis High School, they knew about it all. They knew who had done it, because he had told them. And by told, I mean bragged. The police would only find out in June, 2 months after the murders originally took place, when this call was made.
Davis, place emergency.
Can this be anonymous?
What are you reporting?
Double homicide that happened at April.
You're reporting that, or you have information regarding that?
I have information regarding that.
What are you calling to report, sir?
The double homicide that happened in April this year.
What can you tell me about that?
Everything, actually. Daniel Marsh.
Daniel Marsh?
Yeah, Daniel Marsh or Dan Marsh. He cut open the stomach of both the people, and he put a phone in the woman and a cup in the guy. The reason why I want to remain anonymous is because if my mom finds out, she will send me to military school.
Daniel Marsh wasn't like unheard of, like around town, but not in the way you're thinking, right? He was a goddamn hero.
All of a sudden he passed out and sort of flew back into his seat. I grabbed onto the steering wheel and directed it off to the side of the road, started pounding on his chest, and after about 30 seconds he came back.
In 2008, when he was 10 years old, Daniel Marsh was born in 1997, he received an American Red Cross Heroes Award. He managed to save his father's life, resuscitate him, after his dad had a heart attack. Fair play to you. I don't know if bringing someone back to life, I mean, kinda. He did a CPR. Either he liked it so much, or he hated it so much because he decided and became obsessed with doing the opposite. Shortly after that hero moment, his parents divorced. His mother was having an affair. That was an extremely unpleasant series of events for him. So much so that he began to fantasize about murdering someone. Specifically at the time, he wanted to murder his kindergarten teacher. His mother had left his dad for her. From the age of 11, he began pretty much continuous counseling for depression, anger issues, suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts, and anorexia. He was bullied in school as he was a small guy, so that didn't help. He would live with his mother after his dad kicked him out at 14 for coming home drunk and high one day. His mother never noticed anything off about him. But he was into like sick shit. He would spend all day just watching murder videos on like literal actual people getting their head chopped off. You know, those type of videos. And he became obsessed with serial killers. Yeah, what a weird. But he wasn't just interested in like learning about them. He wanted to fucking be one of them. Like, literally was gonna fucking try his hardest to be one of them, you know? This is the kind of person where we would say, please don't follow your dreams. It's unrealistic, your dream is dead. He thought the opposite, or at least he wanted a participation award. He began to talk all the time about murder, torture, drawing pictures of his fantasies. He dreamt about it, about killing and brutally murdering. And as he got older, the dreams became more and more regular and more intense. It was all he could think about, and he didn't want it to stop. Animal cruelty, dead giveaway. That popped up. He murdered a cat. He strangled a cat to death, saying he did it just because he could. His girlfriend, he started to get more and more violent with her, constantly pushing the envelope. He also loved clowns. Big fan of them. Especially the fucking creepy ones. Unfortunately, I guess he had no mirrors in his house. In January 2013, he saw the school counselor due to his ideations, and he was on a shitload of medication as well at the time. He talked about his homicidal urges, about torturing people, about how he had these urges and he'd just given up trying to push it to the back of his head. He'd given up on, he was just gonna let it take over. He said it to her. The counselor called the cops, the therapist, but nothing happened. And then, on the 14th of April, Dan Marsh decided to tell some of his close friends a story. A story about what he had done the night before. At first they were shocked, and they didn't believe him. And he was telling this story about what he had done with a big, shitty grin on his face. See, the couple lived 2 doors from his dad, and within walking distance of his mom, and he didn't hold back on the details. He said what he had done was the best experience of his entire life. He said it was better than busting a nut. Now, I hear you barking, big dog. Why didn't his close friends and his girlfriend, immediately go to the police when he said this? Well, firstly, they were scared, as you can imagine. And secondly, he had like this hold over his friends. They were described as having an unusual level of closeness, and it seems like he was just very adept at manipulating those closest to him anyway. They attended counselling many times together, and when separated, his girlfriend would ask to leave so she could speak to Daniel before answering any questions. Weird. After the murders, Daniel was a top student. Before he was quiet, he didn't speak to others or teachers, often late. In May 2015, he was Student of the Month. Look at you! Wow, it turns out just brutally murdering people kicked him into shape. Or more likely, he was just overcompensating so people wouldn't suspect him. But he couldn't overcompensate for long, making himself look like a grade A student, because that same month, May 2013, he was kicked out of school for carrying a knife. Daniel, just to know just a little bit about him, he would later score a 35 out of 40. That's an A, on a psychopathy checklist. Not the time when you want a good grade. Let's quickly just run through it. It's 20 items, right? On each item, you can score a 0, a 1, or a 2. So if Dan Marsh got a 35, he got a lot of 2s, the max. The kind of things it would say about you would be superficial charm. You see that a lot in serial killers. Grandiose self-worth. Would you get a 0, a 1, or a 2 on that? Pathological lying. Prone to boredom. Manipulative. Lack of guilt. Parasitic lifestyle. Promiscuous sexual behavior. lack of long-term goals, many short-term marriages, failure to accept responsibility. That's quite, well, it's 20. It's pretty interesting. And so when Dan was diagnosed with that by a psychiatrist or whatever, well, Daniel Marsh just knocked it out of the park. So it's no surprising he did what he did and was planning on doing it again when his friends finally reported it to the police 2 months later. The reason they reported it was that Dan's girlfriend broke up with him out of fear. After she broke up with him in June, he broke into her house in the middle of the night. Scary shit from a guy who just told you he brutally murdered 2 people. She then told a friend, who told the cops. The friend was interviewed and knew everything about the murders. He had heard it all from Daniel, and so the police took him seriously.
Well, he talked about killing people a lot. I didn't really take it seriously until, killed someone. He cut both of them open. It's just to see the insides or something. And then he went to the woman, I think, and he wanted to know how an eye looked like. So he tried taking it out with a knife, but he said it was really hard, so he couldn't do it. Why did it take you until now to speak to us? Because, I don't know, actually. I was afraid.
It was on the 17th of June that the police took Daniel in. They spoke. He briefly denied it, was sobbing.
Daniel, right? Yeah. Hi. You must be Daniel? Yeah. I'm Chris. Yeah. Nice to meet you. What do you know, Dan?
I just know that somebody broke into this old couple's house and stabbed them, killed them. Of that loner kid that, there's always that one outcast.
Dad and Mom split when you were pretty young?
Yeah.
Wow. And then Mom basically left, abandoned you or your family?
Yeah, for 3 or 4 months. I used to, harm myself.
God, I see the scar too there, yeah.
Yeah. I don't hurt people.
Why are you ruining my life? Why should I? I'm not ruining your life. I'm trying to solve a homicide, a double homicide. And if you do it, I understand. And I am there for you to try to make other people understand because I see it. I need help. Okay. That's the first step.
But not for long. After about 3 hours, the police played a recording of his friends telling him he had done it, and he was done denying.
Why the heck would you just sit here and bald-faced lie to everyone with me?
I am... You guys are threatening me with...
With what? The truth?
Getting arrested for 2 murders. I am so scared right now. Of course, I'm going to do anything I can to try and say that I didn't do this. If you want to help me, then don't ruin my life. If anything, send me to the psychiatric hospital. Every time I look at someone, in my mind, I see flashes of images of me killing them. When I was 10, I thought about and plotted about killing the woman that my mother left my father.
What was your plan?
I was slit her throat.
When was the first time you started thinking about killing these people down the street?
I didn't.
Did you start thinking about it?
That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do it. I lost control.
That night, Dan had decided to kill. And kill he did. He left his mother's house on the 14th of April between 2 and 3 a.m. He had a 6-inch knife with him, and he was looking for any open window or door he could find. He found it in the home of Claudia and Chip. He was surprised that 2 people were here. He walked into their living room and sat down till he heard snoring, and then he walked into their bedroom. He stood and waited beside their bed. He was deciding how he would kill them. Claudia, she woke up at one point, saw him, and screamed. He began stabbing her. Then Chip woke, and he stabbed him to death too. He then disemboweled them, pulled out what shouldn't be pulled out. He cut open various parts of them, and he stuffed items inside them simply to mess with the investigation.
I got a hole in the screen, climbed in through the back, went to their bedroom, I opened the door, and I just kind of stood over their bed watching them sleep for a few minutes. My body was trembling. I was nervous, but excited and exhilarated. I was actually going to do it. I was there. It was finally happening. I opened both of their torsos around here, and in the woman I put a phone inside of her, and I put a cup inside the guy.
The reason they found no evidence is Dan had planned this out methodically. He wore gloves, a ski cap, taped the bottoms of his shoes to avoid leaving any identification.
I'm not gonna lie, it felt amazing. The most exhilarating, enjoyable feeling I've ever felt. It was pure happiness and adrenaline and dopamine, just all of it rushing over me.
You mentioned that pretty much everybody you meet, you have thoughts about how you would kill them.
Yeah.
So, how would you kill me?
There's a lot of ways. Choking you to death with your tie.
Okay.
Beating your face into the mirror until it broke and using the glass to cut your arteries, gouging your eyes out, and just smashing your face into the wall. Nothing personal.
Did you ever look up on a computer and do research on psychopaths?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
I looked up sociopath and psychopath because I always found it fascinating, and the more I've aged, the more I can relate, because I don't feel sympathy for other people at all. I don't feel empathy for them, and whether I like that or not, it's the way it is. It's just like, I want to hurt people. I want to kill people, but I don't want to want that. I wish it wasn't that way.
In the days after he killed Claudia and Chip, he went out again. He was wandering the streets of Davis with a baseball bat, looking for anyone he could find to beat them to death. He wanted to use a baseball bat so the police wouldn't link it. He didn't want to stab someone to death again. Thankfully, he did not find anyone. He hid the clothing he wore at his house, and the police later found the bloody items. Daniel Marsh was charged with the 2 murders.
Police found the murdered couple stabbed to death inside this home, their home right here in mid-April. Now, 2 months later, just 2 doors down, the FBI and Davis police were inside that home right there, collecting pieces of evidence for a case against a 16-year-old.
And right now, we're getting our first look at the 16-year-old accused of murdering an elderly couple in Davis. Prosecutors say the man there with the tie, Daniel Marsh, hid in the couple's home, waiting for them and then torturing them in their final hours.
Well, the courtroom was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in there. Sheriff's deputies actually brought Daniel Marsh in through a side entrance to the courthouse, a blocked entrance, and put a jacket over his head to hide him as he was brought in. He was kept separate from all of the other inmates, mostly because they're all adults, and even though he's being tried as an adult, he's still a juvenile, so he was kept at a distance from most everybody else in the courtroom. 16-year-old Daniel Marsh stood before the court through a side doorway, shielded from view of the public, including his father and friends who were in court. Marsh provided one-word answers as he waived his right to a preliminary hearing within 10 days. The judge denied him bail, and relatives of the victims could be heard whispering yes in agreement. Friends of Marsh said they saw him in the days before his arrest and had a hard time believing he could be responsible.
He did have a lot of joy in his life, and personally, I couldn't ever see him doing what he's been accused of, just from the side that I've seen from him.
Prosecutors have not revealed the motive behind the double murder or any relationship between Marsh and the couple. Marsh's father did live near the couple until recently putting his home on the market.
He initially pleaded not guilty, later not guilty by reason of insanity. In September 2014, he went on trial.
In court, Marsh glanced back at his friends and family before the start of today's preliminary hearing. Davis police officer Mark Herman looked at photos from the crime scene as he described how the couple was found lying in their bed, each stabbed more than 60 times. A deputy coroner said the bodies had been cut open, their internal organs pulled out.
He was 17 years old then and tried as an adult. This would become a thing later. The defense was, well, all the medication he was on. That made him go crazy. That didn't work, and he was found guilty. He was found guilty, and he was found to be sane. The sentencing, though, was, well, even though he was tried as an adult, he wasn't, at least not when he committed the murders, so he could not receive either the death penalty or life without parole. So he got life in prison with parole after 52 years. Long enough, I'd say.
Jurors rejected the defense argument that Marsh was suffering from the side effects of antidepressant medication. In fact, jurors agreed to 4 special circumstances, including that Marsh was lying in wait for his victims and that he tortured them.
But due to California law, he got parole after 25, which is 17 years from now. He'll still be young enough to do a lot more killing. Later, there was a big ol' hullabaloo due to him being charged in an adult court, various California law changes which led to his defense, filing many appeals to try and get his conviction reversed, but ultimately it was finally decided in late 2021 that he will be serving his whole sentence. His whole sentence being parole after 25. But, okay, having said all of that, I think it's unlikely that Daniel Marsh will get parole, due to him being extremely homicidal, so...
In conclusion, the seriousness of the offense, both in terms of its sophistication and the gravity, along with the finding that Marsh has made little progress in rehabilitation in the past 5 years, support the ultimate ruling in this court to transfer the case to adult criminal court. There is a preponderance of evidence to support this order. The criminal judgment in case CRF 13-2418 is hereby reinstated. The defendant is remanded to state prison, CDCR, to serve the balance of an indeterminate life sentence with a minimum of 52 years. It is so ordered.
And that's Daniel Marsh, one sick puppy. He dreamt about murdering since he was a boy, and when he finally did it, it was as horrible as possible. And then he wanted to do it again. He's someone who's just straight up, like, there's nothing else there other than a cycle, like Cody Legibikoff again, right? There's nothing that, like, kind of set it off. His parents divorced him, but hey, a lot of people's parents divorce. They don't dream about murdering someone brutally and then do it to people as they are sleeping. As I said, I'd be very surprised if he actually ever did get parole. I can't imagine his homicidal thoughts will just, vanish away. Doesn't seem like someone who will ever change. Mad for the murder. He also gave a TED Talk. Wow.
Hurt people hurt people. I came to realize that there are no such things as evil people in this world. Only damaged people embrace our humanity.
Unfortunately, it's not on the internet anymore. This is after the family of Claudia and Chip, well, they were appalled that he was able to give a TED Talk. And in that TED Talk, it seems he just moaned about how he deserved a second chance. Unfortunately, Chip and Claudia won't get one.
I don't feel sorry for other people. At all.
Hey, we can all say the same for you, Dan. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you getting to this point, which is the end of the video. So if you did, thank you. Really, if you stuck with me for this long, hey, can't thank you enough. It means a lot. Alright, here, go on. I'll see you guys real soon in the next whole video, which will probably be in like a couple of days. So look forward to that. And until then, please just, take care of yourselves. As always, yourselves, each other, those around you, because I love you. Thank you. Mike out.